Well, with unemployment at its lowest rate in 48 years, you might expect that Aussie workers would be thriving, but many workers are getting ripped off by their employers. Business lawyer and litigation expert Alex Martin says wage theft and misappropriation of workers' entitlements is rife within Australian workplaces, and he joins us to talk about it now. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
How are people getting away? I mean, our employment laws are fairly rigid. Well, I mean, rigid's probably not the right word, but they're well and truly entrenched. How do employers get away with this?
Yes, well, I think there's probably two things going on. If you're talking about small businesses, I think there's a lot of ignorance among small businesses. They don't actually know what's required. So small business owners, it's quite difficult to know what award applies to them, what penalty rates apply. If someone stays back to clean the office after they finish, do they have to get paid for that? That's quite difficult for small employees. And then I think on the other side, then there's large multinational companies who have human resources departments and who have in-house lawyers and all the rest of it who should know better. And I think the issue there is really greed.
Okay, yeah. So what, and I guess firstly, how does an employee know what they're entitled to so that they can try and get some sort of recourse if indeed they are being ripped off? Yeah,
so employees should, number one, they should pay attention to all the hours they work. So, there was a recent case in George Columbaris where the chefs were not paid for the cleaning bit. They turned up to work to do the cooking, and then they might stay back for an hour to clean the kitchen, and that hour they weren't paid for, and that was sort of normal in the industry. But it was found that was wage theft, that was underpayment of wages. So the first thing they should do is keep a track of everything that they work, and then the second thing they should do is look up what award applies to them and what penalty rates and so on. And you can do that like on the Fair Work Commission website. It's all publicly available information.
Now, you're working a case at the moment with the Fair Work Commission where you had employers who were only paid for half the hours they work and then fired without being reimbursed up to $7,000. That sounds like a fairly open and shut sort of thing. So I imagine when these things come about, they're probably not that hard to actually navigate once it gets to your level.
Yeah, that's right. As I say, I think there's a lot of ignorance amongst small businesses and amongst employees. So a lot of employees, they might be on temporary visas, they might be casual, they might be young, they might be in hospitality and retail jobs where they don't actually know what they're entitled to, in beauty jobs, that sort of thing. So I think there's ignorance both on the part of the employees and the employers about what's required. So a lot of these things don't get to court, but when they do, often, we've just seen there's been a huge cases with Coles, Woolworths, some of the Australian universities who you'd think would know better, but all of those, Coles, Woolworths and the universities were all found to be underpaying their staff.
What advice do you have for employees who think they're being underpaid? What's the first step?
So the first step is to know what you're entitled to. So you've got to know what award applies to you and what penalty rates and so on, and then keep track. So one of the real problems we have when running cases is that we don't have consistent records. People say, I often stay back an hour after work, and say, well, what days do you stay back, how much? And you need to keep a spreadsheet, if you like. This day I worked 8 hours, that day I worked 9 hours, and my rate on Saturday is this much, and my rate on Sunday is this much. So you really need to just be informed and keep records. Of course, the lawyer's answer, keep records about what you, how much you've worked and what you should have been paid, and then you can produce those records if you need to pursue it through the Fair Work Commission or the Fair Work Ombudsman.
Fantastic. Alex, always good to talk to you. Appreciate your time.
Great to talk to you. Thanks, Stephen.
Alex Martin is a litigation expert, partner at Taurus Legal Management.